All right, Commanders. Today we have a very special guest with us. Some people don't like to consider themselves big names in the elite space. I like to think of myself as kind of a big deal, but it's only inside the walls of this studio. But we do actually have someone that has tread a lot of different ground when it comes to not just the elite community, but also the creative space inside elite. So I would like to introduce to the show today Commander Kaizen. Kai, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. You're right. We have somebody very important here today. We've got iflippadaswitch, and I'll be talking to him, and I'm just Kaizen.
Well, first off, I appreciate the compliment. So I wanted to bring you on the show because I feel like you and I are kindred spirits when it comes to how we not only view elite, but also interact with elite and create based off of the universe that we're, occupying in game. As listeners of the show will know, we have our recurring show segment, Switch in Space, which is the tale of a hapless commander that gets stuck in some pretty harebrained scenarios, but is trying to find his way back home. It's kind of a Lost in Space meets Doctor Who kind of a situation of the week type thing. But Kai, you have also done some work in the creative space as well. And so what do you like, where does that inspiration come for you as far as like getting ideas for things, as far as was it something that spurred on the Turning the Wheel initiative? Did you just create content based off of your experience in the game? Like, how'd that come around?
Oh man. Wow, that's a hell of a question. There's like 19 answers to that.
And we got time for all 19.
Yeah. So Elite Week basically started from sort of I wanted to do a show. I started doing a show called Loose Screws a while back. And then while I was still doing Loose Screws, I started Elite Week as sort of a side project, and it was going for a bit, and that was cool. And then I sort of there was some change ups around at Loose Screws, and it was time for sort of me to go. So leaving Loose Screws, I just started focusing on Elite Week like full time. I started really getting into it and sort of growing it and changing it around and doing some different things with the show. And it turned into, sort of what it is now. In addition to that, the Dark Wheel project, the Turning the Wheel initiative, sort of grew out of a whole long conversation and supposition and a lot of investigation and a lot of putting things together and et cetera, et cetera. And it sort of ended up as this formed idea for a project that I put together a bunch of people, and a lot of people have been working on that. That is for sure a group effort and not sort of my project per se.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of hands in that pie from what I have seen.
Yeah. And then for the last bit, I think you're sort of referring to the narrative, that like the radio play that we do on this show.
Yeah.
Which is called Roy Stories. And to be entirely honest with you, the person that is most sort of responsible for creation of that is a guy named Roy Cookson, who is one of my co-hosts on the show. Roy wanted to do this thing. He was like, I want to do a thing with like stories. I want to do some story stuff. He took submissions from authors in the community. We put it out on the show. We said, hey, let's get some writers out there. We know we have so many awesome storytellers within the world of Elite, the community of Elite Dangerous. And there's this whole thing on Inara where they have the Inara writers logs or journals, or I don't forget how they call it, but there's a thing on Inara where you can go and you can follow sort of the journals, the stories of a bunch of, amateur or pro, or I don't know these people in their walks of life. For all I know, you could be a garbage man, or you could be a professional author, or a professor of literature at some community college in Wisconsin for all I know, and like whatever. But like the story, a good story is a good story. The story shines through.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
care if you're a garbage man. I don't care if you're Stephen King. You give me 2 stories, I'll read one. The one that I like is the one that I like. So we took submissions, and the first one, I forget the guy's name. He was a writer. We did one of his stories. Then we did a couple of Mac Winston's, and then we switched over and we did a whole bunch of Yunisakashiro stories, and we wrapped up season 1 and left it at a good sort of place, but there's still kind of a cliffhanger. And we took like a couple weeks off, and between doing season 1 and season 2, Roy said like, I want to step this up some. I want to do more voice parts, like in the Yunisakashiro stories. And it started with him just reading the story. Like he would, like a narrator, just read it, like an audio book where you have like one guy read it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the Yunisakashiro stories, he started having his wife and his daughter read a few parts. And then every once in a while, he would come to me or come to Tweak or come to Arson, come to somebody and be like, hey, can you just read these couple of lines? There's a guy, Commander Adaxius, that's from our community. He would read lines to play a part. He played Logan Valberg. And it was just a fun thing that we all started like to do. And then when we took the break for like a month or 3 weeks, whatever, to go between season 1 and season 2, I put Roy in touch with, I asked our podcast editor, who was actually one of your editors and one of your interviewers. I heard he did a phenomenal interview with Phil a while back.
Oh, yeah.
And a guy named Monohive, very, very cool dude. And I was like, you know what? Monohive does like phenomenal sound effect work and all kinds of stuff. You should have him punch up the thing. And that's all the credit I really deserve for all of that. The rest of it was, I just put the two together. Roy works very hard on getting the stuff together, and he gives detailed instructions to Monohive on what he thinks would work good. And Monohive does a fucking amazing job of like making it really good. And I know the two of them go back and forth and tweak this and chip that and clip this and move that and put the sound effect up on this. And you end up with this product that we've had for the last several episodes, which you can find on the Elite Week YouTube. There's a whole sub-channel that is just Roy stories, and it starts at season 2. We've got, literally the 4th episode of that series just got posted today on YouTube. So by the time you're hearing this, it's out.
Nice.
And you can go and listen to what is a very cool radio play that is done by this whole huge group of people. I'm just one of the voices on the thing. I'm not in any way the sort of,
the mastermind behind it.
Yeah, that's all. I would give the credit for that. Really should be split between Roy Cookson, the guy who sort of runs and edits that portion of the show, and the writers themselves. We have Yunisakashiro, who did a phenomenal story arc that we followed, and Mac Winston, who is doing the current phenomenal story arc that we're doing, and it's called Mac Winston Stories, and he is the lead. He is the commander that is sort of the lead character of that story arc.
Nice. Well, that's cool.
So,
I mean,
there's.
Well, no, yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say like it makes sense that it's a collaborative effort, because I'll be honest with you, like when I first started this show, when I first started Algrab AM, I almost fell back into the mindset and the method that I had done on previous projects, where like I was kind of playing it close to the chest, and like I was kind of cagey about some stuff. And then at some point I was just like, no, if I want this thing to actually be good, I got to get other people in on this. And so that's when actually Monohive came to me and was like, hey, I work in audio. I'm an audio engineer. I'm secretly a sound effects wizard. Can, do you want some help? And I was like, you know what? All right, yeah, let's do that. And then it just, it rolled from there. And the difference in quality of the show is apparent. If you listen to the first episode of Algrab AM and then listen to the second, it is night and day. Because as much as I like to think that I have some technical prowess when it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm really just a mouthpiece. And when when he applied his, his audio magic to it, and then I listened to it, I was like, oh my God, this is great. But it is cool to hear though that like like the show's creator, the segment's creator, is really in touch with Mono as far as like, different inputs and like kind of what he's picturing and stuff as far as like sound design and stuff like that. And Monohive is really receptive to that. I just kind of let him go. I'm just like, hey, here it is. Kind of just go with it and mold it as you feel it needs to be done in order to, achieve the thing. And that also works as well. I'm not really sure. I haven't really asked him, what method he prefers, if he prefers a lot of direction or if he just likes to just be let off the leash creatively. But you're right, though. Monohive is one, a good dude. Two, does not give himself nearly enough credit as an interviewer. And three, is one of the most talented audio engineers I've probably ever encountered, like hands down.
Oh yeah, he's good people. And I do the way that you described that, how you handle with him, where it's very hands off and it's just, here's the thing, do your magic. That's exactly what I do with him with the show that he podcast, the podcast that he edits.
Yeah.
I just say, here's the clip. Let me know if there's anything you need, and I stay out of the way. I think the radio play, I think he and Roy have a lot more back and forth and a lot more sort of collaborative effort and whatever. But yeah. I think he does a good job. He does a great job on both. So yeah. Proof is in the pudding. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it's funny how like we both have that like kind of like, all right, I made a thing. Now I'm going to pass it off to you because this is your realm now, though. I don't know if that has anything to do with like just our like shared mentality in the military of where it's like, okay, cool, I did my bit. Now I'm going to hand it off to you because you're a expert in your field. And then I'm going to go off and do my part again while you're working on that. Or if it's just I don't know, maybe it makes us both lazy. I'm not entirely sure, but I like to be out of the way when it comes to that. Like, I'm not going to tell someone that paints how to paint. So
yeah, I think, as you said, coming from a military background, I think both of us are like the way that military people handle things is very much like you give a man a job to do. You either tell him to do it or you tell him how to do it. You don't do both. If you want to do it yourself a certain way, then do it yourself. That's the military way, is like, yo, dude, don't, if I got to recce this hill, don't tell me how to do, like, if you're going to do it, go do it. If not, tell me what to do and then get out of the way. That's the military way.
Yeah.
I think actors, singers, artists, collaborative type people, they're much more like, hey man, let's sit around and plan this out and let's talk about all of our feelings and stuff. And like, that's cool too. That works. Whatever. We just have our own. Everybody has their own way to go about it.
Yeah, I always tell. I've always told my supervisors, like, listen, if you ask me to do a thing, don't ask me how I got it done. I will just let you know when it's done. I'm not going to break any laws. I'm not gonna do anything bad. But I might have to skirt some rules to get to your goal. But
to me.
Yeah, but So speaking about like military experience and stuff like that. So you were in the Marine Corps. How long were you I don't want to assume, but you were enlisted or were you an officer?
I enlisted. I worked for a living.
That's my man.
8 years in.
All right, right on. And where were you stationed at, and when did you join the service?
I've been stationed pretty much everywhere. I've been to Pendleton. I've been through, we were at Okinawa for a while. We were at RAF Mildenhall, detached from Mildenhall, gone to JBAD, just done the whole, if you pick a place, I've been there.
Right on.
Yeah. And just had so here's the thing. The fact of the matter is like the life of a recon Marine is a little different, or now, a MARSOC Raider. It's a little different than if you are a standard, any sort of work that's going to touch on SOCOM. You live a much more flexible life than anybody. If you're in the MEU, your life is very much like, okay, and just for heads up, MEU is the Marine Expeditionary Unit. If you're in a MEU, it's like, okay, we're going to be in Okinawa for 4 years or, 8 years or whatever. And then we're going to be here, we're going to be there. If you're anything touching SOCOM, it's much more like your stuff is going to be here. You, in a month, who knows? Your stuff is going to be here. Your mail is going to be arriving to RAF Mildenhall, which is leased out to the American military under NATO. It's an RAF base, but it's entirely manned by American personnel under NATO.
That's a Royal Air Force base?
Yes, it is an RAF base.
Cool.
It's in England. Very, very cool little spot. It's just a couple miles down the road from a much larger base, which is RAF Lakenheath, which is a big, huge Air Force base.
Oh, I almost got stationed at Lakenheath, but my orders got deleted.
So you would be like literally Mildenhall. We went to the Lakenheath for the BX because Mildenhall didn't have a BX. Mildenhall didn't have. I mean, it had like a little shitty half-ass BX that it was one building that was the size of a fairly decent size house.
Yeah, and
half of it was the bookstore, and the other half of it was like a BX-ish.
There's always a section with books, and they're always like, oh, like military developmental books, and it's like, no one's reading these. I just need some Doritos and a Mountain Dew. Come on.
Yeah. But they had, Road and Track, they had Playboy, they had, guns and ammo. They had everything we needed.
So highbrow literature, you mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like how you're like, Playboy, Road and Track, guns and ammo. That's all I need. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And then those Doritos and the Mountain Dew, and I'm set. That's my Saturday.
Bro, I mean, you're talking to a jarhead. It's not like I'm going to be reading, it was the best of times, it's the worst of times. I shocked the hell out of somebody. I dated this chick for a while who was, she actually was big into literature. And so she would drag me to places. So I've seen the RSC at Stratford upon Avon. I've seen them at the Barbican. I've seen whatever. And I have this weird memory where weird shit will stick into my head. And somebody said something, and they were trying to, it was almost like a shitty little comment that they were trying to make to me. And it was, I think, from like a thing about Much Ado About Nothing. Like, oh yeah, well, clearly he reads Much Ado About Nothing. And I looked back and I said, sigh no more, lady, sigh no more. Men were deceivers ever. One foot on sea and one on shore, to one thing constant never. So sigh not so, but let them go, and be you blithe and bonny, converting all your tales of woe into hey, nonny, nonny. Which is a direct quote from that play.
And their mind just exploded.
Yeah, just in case it doesn't register, I'm 6'7", 280 pounds of muscle, and a shaved head. I look like the kind of a fucking idiot meathead that I am. So the fact that my brain randomly can pull one line from a Shakespeare play that I saw once because the girl that I was with was really hot and was worth it. It was a very shut that guy up real quick. But yeah. I forgot how we even got onto that.
We're talking about like places you'd been stationed. So you've been a little bit of everywhere, which, being on the soft side of things makes sense because you're hopping around everywhere. A
lot of time out of JBAD.
Yeah, so definitely a international man of mystery type lifestyle, which is cool. I definitely prefer stability in my life, so I stayed away from the soft side of things. I have for my own part been approached a handful of times as far as like, hey man, we really need preventive medicine over here in soft, and I'm like, hey man, I super duper don't want to jump out of airplanes because I have the knees of a 90-year-old, so I don't need all that in my life. It's like one bad PLF and I'm on crutches for the rest of my days. So trying to not do all that.
Did they approach you for? So they wouldn't approach you for CAG, not if you weren't coming from Tier 1.
No,
they were either approaching you for Rangers, approaching you for Green Berets, or approaching you for Airborne.
I'm
guessing Airborne.
Well, so when on the Army side, when you when you're a part of SOF, whether it's as support or if you're going to selection to be an operator in a team, right? There are certain like prerequisite schools you have to go to, and one of them is jump school. It doesn't matter if you're a cook, it doesn't matter if you're a fueler, it doesn't matter if you're a Sierra like myself. You're gonna be jump qualified. And so that's one of those things where it's like I would just be support. I would just be, like tagging along in the initial, like, hey, we're in a place. Okay, is the water good? Sweet. And then leaving out, but still got to be jump qualified. And that, no, I'm good with that. I did air.
You never went and got you never got jump qualified?
No, I did air assault school at Fort Campbell when I first came in. And I mean, and that was a lot of fun. I would probably go through that school again, but I'm admittedly a little biased when it comes to I have a real thing about like the lineage of different military units and stuff. And I didn't realize that I'd kind of hit the jackpot when I got stationed at Fort Campbell because I wasn't aware of the history. You know what I mean? Like I saw Saving Private Ryan, but I didn't know anything when I came in 2004. So when I came in and I got stationed at Fort Campbell, I didn't realize that I was like literally in the home of like Army rock stars. You know what I mean? Like Easy Company comes from there. You know,
102nd Easy Company. Yeah. Absolutely.
So So it's one of those things where you're like, like I said, I wasn't aware I was, standing in the footsteps of giants. And then over time, I spent a lot of time at Fort Campbell and I spent a lot of time overseas and things like that. And so by the time I got back and I was getting ready to leave, it's like, no, I don't want to go. I like it here. And then I went to other places and I was like, I don't like this nearly as much. This isn't fun at all. And so after, you interact and you meet people that have been other places and have done other things. And so after some time and getting a little bit wiser and a little bit older, I've come to the realization that in the modern world, air mobility, air assault, being able to pick stuff up with helicopters and move it to a place and set it down and then move on out makes a lot more sense to my brain than jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. So I was like, you know what? If I don't need to go to jump school, probably not going to go to jump school. And I just kind of never checked that box as far as like, hey, what would you like to go do? That's super cool. I'm always just like, hey, I'd really like to go to this, to this course or this course. And people are like, oh man, you should definitely go and get jump qualified. And I'm like, I'm closing in on 40. So no, I would rather not.
Dude, there was a special sort of event that happened, and I don't want to get into details, but at the event, there was a retelling of a story of sort of a how they do this bullshit whenever you have these special get-togethers and special days. But they did a retelling, basically reading from an AAR, and they had 3 of the actual guys from Band of Brothers came. It was Dick Winters, it was Babe Heffernan.
Wow.
How am I blanking on the third guy's name? It was Dick, Babe, and the guy, he was from Philly. I feel so embarrassed now that I can't remember the guy's name. This is the worst. But so it was the 3 of them, and they walked up afterwards because they did the retelling of the story. And they came up, and Babe Heffernan said to me, he was like, wow, he goes, from the story, he's like, you guys are some serious guys, and shook our hands. And now, meanwhile, you got to keep in mind, he is an old man that I'm meeting him by the time I meet him. And he's kind of a little bent over, whatever. But I was so embarrassed. I was like, no, man. I know the whole story of Easy Company like the back of my head.
Yeah.
But back of my hand, man. The 102nd, like what they did at Bastogne, what they did on D-Day, what they did.
The Battle of the Bulge.
All the way up to Berchtesgaden. Yeah, it was like, so for Babe Heffernan to say, you guys are some serious guys, I was so embarrassed. And I was like, no, you guys are the real serious guys.
Yeah. So like quick tangent, and then I guess we'll get back to Elite. I don't know, but so when so I had a soldier, and she just a absolute rock star, right? Like PT stud, knew her job like the back of her hand. we'd send her to a bunch of boards and she just killed it, right? And so
What?
someone was like, hey, let's get her geared up if she wants to go to the Division Soldier of the Year. And I was like, hell yeah. So I talked to her and I was like, hey, this would be a really good opportunity for you. I think you would do great, so on and so forth. And so she was like, okay, cool. So like I helped her study. I helped her get things together. Like I acted as her, her sponsor for the whole thing. So she goes through and she's just killing it. And the whole time she's like, I don't know if I'm doing good. I don't know how I'm stacking up. And I'm like, her name is Rodriguez. I was like, Rod, you're killing it. Don't worry about it. You're fine. So she's just going through and smashing it. So it gets to the day of the actual board, right? Like they did a PT test, a range before this, like land nav, all kinds of crap before it. And then it gets to the actual day of the board and it's at Division. And so we're at the Division headquarters and there's all of, there's the campaign streamers and there's the, the mock-up of the paratrooper sitting there in the main hall, all this history around her. And I can see it on her face. She is freaking out. And I'm like, Rod, just calm down. You're fine. You got this far because you deserve to be here. You're going to do great. So she gets into the board. The Division Sergeant Major's asking her questions. She's just knocking it out. Last question he asks her. He says, all right, Specialist Rodriguez, you're killing it. So I'm just going to give you a softball. When was the Declaration of Independence signed? And she goes, without skipping a beat, goes 1976. And they stop.
Oh, because she remembers the bicentennial.
So they all stop and Sergeant Major looks over and he was like, are you sure about that? And again, without skipping a beat, goes, yes, Sergeant Major, 1976. As if someone asked her what the color of the sky was. She said orange, and thusly it was orange. And they're just like, okay, I have no further questions. So she salutes. She leaves on out. As soon as she shuts the door, she looks at me and she goes, 1976. What the hell is wrong with me? And I'm like, Rod, it's fine. You're fine. So then it all wraps up. They announce the winner. Sure enough, she wins. So she goes through, gets all these freaking accolades and everything like that. And again, well deserved. She put in the work. She killed it. But one of the things that she did was she got to go and be a representative for the division at the, I can't remember what year it was, but at the D-Day celebration at Normandy.
For 1976?
Yeah. So she goes, so she gets sent over to Europe and all that. And there's all these World War II vets. And sure enough, a couple of the guys from Easy Company are there. So they go through the ceremony and everything, and they're doing all this stuff. And so they took them out to this French bar, and they're there, and everybody's having a good time and celebrating and stuff like that. And so, and this is the way she tells it, right? She was like, I don't really drink, but I wanted to be, I didn't want to be rude. So I was having a glass of wine, and I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden this gentleman comes up and sits next to me, and he says, hey, do you mind if I sit here? And I just look over and say, yes, sure, by all means. And he sits down, and I think to myself, I recognize this guy's face. Where did I recognize his face from? And so they're talking, they're chatting up and everything. He asks her about herself and stuff and why she's there, and she explains it. And he, congratulates her on winning and stuff and thanks her for her service and everything. And she's mid conversation, and suddenly it dawns on her, this is Dick Winters. I'm sharing.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she's like, I'm sharing a drink with Dick Winters. And then at that moment when she realized who it was, she kind of clammed up a little bit, and she was like, oh, she was kind of freaking out. But then, she got over to the whole starstruck thing, and then, they ended up having a really cool conversation and stuff, and then he went his way and stuff. But yeah, so it was one of those things where, she put in the work, but then she got to meet these guys that are just like these, pillars of the military community and stuff. And it was a really cool experience for her. And so I was happy that panned out. But you're right, though. There is this thing where you kind of get to meet those people that have had an impact on not just where you work, but the community that you work in. And, it can be daunting sometimes because, they'll always be like, hey, good job out there. You're doing good stuff. And then in your head, you're like, bro, you're like a rock star.
Also too, the nature of fame is so sort of fleeting and arbitrary and bullshit where you have, you know, people that are just famous for having a big butt or whatever. So it's like I've met when I first, like, no joke, when I first got out, I did private security and I did a bunch of stuff. So I spent like a year and a half of my life doing a bunch of private security gigs. And like, so like oh, you meet Dave Chappelle, you meet Joe Rogan, you meet Taya Leone or this one or that one or whatever. And it's like, because you're picking them up at an airport somewhere. Your job as armed security is just pick them up at an airport, drive them to some place. You're basically a driver. You're no different than a limo driver, but there's a film company or a record studio that's paying an extra lot of money to have an armed guy in a suit pick them up at the airport. And for a lot of it, it's like, and I'm not talking trash on those people, any of the people that I named or that I haven't from Hollywood or from whatever, but some of that, or these are amazing, you know, if you're talking about like a Tom Hanks or you're talking about that played Dick Winters, you're talking about Damian Lewis, you're talking about these people that are like, I think I respect the hell out of what they do and whatever. And then other ones, it's like, you know, some singer or whatever, and it's like, okay, whatever. But these guys, Dick Winters, meeting him was one of the highlights of my life. And Bill Garnier, that's the third name that I could not remember. I was blanking, but Bill Garnier was the third guy. So it was Dick Winters, Babe Heffernan, and Bill Garnier.
Nice.
And yeah, like some of those people you meet, you're like, holy shit, this is big. This is very like, I know your stories. I know the things that you've done. Those guys were fucking lightning and thunder, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But it's weird. It's weird that you mentioned like the nature of, like, I guess, air quotes here, fame and stuff like that. Cause I kind of had a very similar reaction when I first sat down and talked to Boss Lady. Cause not that I was like intimidated or anything, but she was a person, like, I watched her on Twitch and she seems very personable. And she seems like the kind of person you could just chill out and talk with. And then you finally meet her and you're like, oh yes, actually you are all these things. Like, you're probably, like, honestly, she's probably one of the sweetest people I've ever sat down and talked to. And so,
oh yeah, I absolutely, I am madly in love with Boss Lady. She is just a kick-ass chick. She is very, very cool, very, very down to, like, and WKJS both, like, they do a lot of projects together. They are both, sweet, cool, just fucking 100% awesome people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun when you get to meet people and they don't disappoint. There's so many times you meet people and they disappoint because, like, you see the face when they're streaming or the whatever, and then you meet them behind the scenes and it's like, oh yeah, okay. But like last night's show on Elite Week, we're doing the show, blah blah blah, and just doing the regular thing, and Down to Earth Astronomy starts typing in the live chat. He's like, oh, this is a cool discussion, blah blah blah, whatever. And I was like, dude, Astro, like, he's a friend of mine. I'm like, Astro, come. Like, I just sent him a DM, like, dude, join us. And he's like, oh, that'd be awesome. And then he just did. So we're all just hanging out talking about the discussion topic. Like, there's so many cool things where when something like that happens, or like, earlier in the week, somebody messaged me. They're like, dude, do you see Obsidian Ant is commenting on your show? Like, he was in the comment section of your show or whatever. And it's like, oh, cool. Like, when you meet some of the cool and interesting people of the Elite Dangerous community and they're genuine.
Yeah.
They are what they seem to be. Yeah. Because I feel like in so many cases, and I'm not naming any names, but they're in so many cases in any community, not necessarily the Elite community, but in any community, you have these people where you see the show that they put out and they act sort of one way. And then you meet them and they don't match that. Like, I match 100% what I come off like on the air, because I come off on the air as an asshole who's just drunk and talking shit, which is what I am.
No, you're a sweetheart. Come on.
You meet people like Boss Lady who are just like, just absolute gems, just really solid fucking dudes. And that's, to me, that's why I consider Boss Lady. She's a solid fucking dude.
Yep.
So like, That's always nice. Yeah.
It's like that's funny because I use dude interchangeably as well. I like being from California. It's hard not to, and so I always tell people it's like, listen, if I say that you're a really cool dude, that's the highest compliment I can give you. Like that's literally it. So like you're a pretty cool dude. And it's like, oh, thanks. It's like, yeah, all right. But no, but you're right though when it comes to the community, especially in this game, and it's one of those things that every time someone whether you listen to a podcast, or you're watching someone's content on Twitch or on YouTube, something like that. It's something that a lot of people, they bang that drum, but it is one of the things about this game that really does stick true is like the people that you interact with in this game, the people you interact with in Elite, whether it's in a Discord or online, some other online forum, they're really just, they really are just like genuine people. Cause I think it gives you like I don't know. I think this game has a way of like forcing perspective on you because it's so big. I guess does that make sense? Because like it's so vast. Like you're not playing anything else that has this kind of scale when it comes to the space that you're occupying. And so like it kind of forces perspective on you. It's like, yeah, like I'm one person and I think I'm pretty cool, but there's also the whole galaxy out there and all these people that occupy it. So like I'm still just one person in that galaxy. And then, it kind of allows people to just be their genuine selves instead of just trying to, like put on a facade like you see in so many other communities, like where, like some people can be like overly aggressive when it comes to their games and stuff. Like that's why I got away from a lot of other online games. It's because at some point I was like, I'm not having fun here because all you guys are taking this way too seriously. I just, got away from there. And then after I found Elite, and I just realized there was a lot of people that like, they like to play the game and they like to interact with people in the game, but they also don't take it super serious and just kind of have fun with it. I'm like, all right, cool. I can get down with this. And it definitely doesn't hurt that, I get to meet cool people like yourself or Boss Lady, or, I would love one day to sit down with Obsidian Ant and pick his brain, or, or Down to Earth Astronomy and talk to them, or even, like when I sat down and talked to Phil, like that guy, oh my God, that guy's a reservoir of knowledge about this game, and he's very humble about it. But it's like, no, Phil, you know more about the Elite universe than almost anybody I know. So it's a very different dynamic when it comes to community and the people that you're interacting with. So I can appreciate that in the game for sure.
Oh yeah, I am, to focus on the pun that you just made there. I am madly in love with Down to Earth and the Burrs, both Burr and his wife Marini. They're fucking three of the most solid people you will meet on this planet. They're just super, super sweet, super nice, super genuine people.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Down to Earth, like I was stationed in Germany for a while, and I actually I met quite a few like really cool German friends that when I lived in Heidelberg. And whenever I see Astro's videos, I always think like, man, he just seems like the kind of guy you could just like chill out with and like have a beer and just talk about space with.
Yeah. He's from Denmark, but you're absolutely right that.
Oh, I apologize.
No. I'm sure he would not take any offense at all. There's a very cool vibe though, because I 100% remember. I've been to Stuttgart and Ramstein and Kaiserslautern. And there is a very cool feel to German, Danish, Dutch. There's like that sort of area where you have these sort of very similar, cool, funky people that it's like, yeah. There's a vibe there where it's like, I don't know, these sort of.
The way I've always heard it, the way I've always heard European culture in that area described is everyone gets stuff done, but no one's in a hurry. Like everyone's just like, all right, cool, and they just go about their day. Like they accomplish what they want to accomplish. Obviously, the European economy functions because people are doing their jobs and stuff, but it's never like this like. Go, gotta get it done, go. Everyone's just like, all right, we'll get there when we get there. And then when they get there, they're like, sweet, that's done. Let's chill out.
Yeah, and it just kind of works.
Yeah.
Yes. and the Burrs obviously aren't from that area at all, but they are also of that ilk. They're just, like I said, down to earth is a fucking sweetie, and Burr and Rainey are fucking sweeties. They're yeah.
Yeah. But so focusing a little more on Elite and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So a question that I've started to ask people that I want to make more of a mainstay. I have a certain affinity for different ships and stuff in the game, so, you know, different places and stuff like that. And I've come to realize that I have ships that I hate that I love, and I have certain ships that I just love to hate. So my question to you, my good sir, is what is the ship that you hate that you love? That, like, you know it's bad, but you're just like, but I like flying this ship. And what is the ship that you love to hate? As in, like, it's cool that people think it's neat, but I just don't care for it at all.
So my makeup, my personal makeup is such that the first question just doesn't apply to me. I there's nothing that I hate that I love. I don't care. I can name you shows, movies, or songs that the entire world will say, "Oh, this is dog shit." But if I like it, I like it, and I have zero shame in that. And I will tell anyone, I like this, and if you don't, fight me. So there's no ship that I love that I'm ashamed of. I can defend to you. You name a ship in the game, and I'll defend to you its purpose or its whatever. And every ship in the game has a beauty to it and has an interesting whatever to it. So let's do that. Let's just flip the script on you. Name to me a ship that you're like, you cannot possibly defend the ship, and then I'll tell you why it's got its purpose.
Okay, well then I'll go with my answer, and that would be the Killback.
Are you kidding me? The Killback is sexy as fuck, bro. I gotta. Okay.
I mean, I agree with you.
Have you heard Tokoso's songs about flying around in his Killback?
No, I have not.
So it is the entry for having an SLF. It is the entry ship. It's the smallest, cheapest ship in the game that you can have that deploys and is able to deploy an SLF. It's got those sexy little quad thrusters that rotate when you move. It reminds me of, what was that movie, Interstellar, where they had those machines that were
the
like
robots.
It's a brick. Yeah, they're like a brick, but then they like rotate around, and it's like, I mean, yes, of course, it's dog shit. It's like a 1960s, 1972 Pacer, but it's such cool dog shit. It's got, if you were to see one of those in real life, where you're like, bro, look at that brick over there. It can fly around. It can haul stuff. It can do cool, weird shit. It's fairly maneuverable.
Yeah.
And it's got a bay inside of it that can launch fighters for days, bro. And they can come out and zoom and pew, and they can do all the stuff. That's a cool ship. I dig that ship. I mean, I thought you were going to hit me with Asp Scout. That's the one that everybody likes to talk shit on. But no, I'm ready to defend the Killback. I got love.
I did a stream a while back where I had people in Sidewinder join me in a Hazres, and I had outfitted a Killback for combat. I called it the combat Killback, right? And I engineered the ever loving god out of this thing. Just tried my best. It did okay, but it wasn't great. I felt this unhealthy compulsion to put frickin' pack hounds on it. So I was like, all right, sweet. We're just gonna do beam lasers and pack hounds. Let's go. And then I realized the convergence on it was terrible. So like I had to have the bottom of the ship facing the target all the time, because the way that the size 1 hardpoints are, if they're above you at all, it can't fire. Like it can't, like the gimbals can't get up there. And the pack hounds were on top. So I was like, okay, I have to be constantly swooping down on my target. And then like someone else came in and asked Scout. One of our guys showed up with a hauler with a single rail gun on it, which was hilarious. He was just like off in the background, just like pew, pew with the rail gun. But I mean, it was a good time, but like it was one of those things where I was like, I want to see if you can actually make these crappy shit. Well, not crappy, but like these not meant for combat ships, good for combat. Tier 1. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
but
I would put Cytos. Put Cytos on the bottom of a keelback, and then put those pack hounds up top, and literally just come in death from above style. Hit them with the Cytos, melt, because you can with Cytos you can melt that shield in a second or two, and then flip over to those pack hounds and just watch them cry.
yeah, that actually I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point. Because I was just doing I was doing thermal vent beams because the pack hounds were generating so much heat, and the ship runs hot anyway.
That's a lot of tequila. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but to bring that back around, so what is the ship that you love to hate?
The ship that I will defend every ship in Elite with regard to it has its place. It has. I think Elite needs to go the other way. I think we need to have 5 or 6 new ships a year added to the game. And some of it could just be, basically you could take a ship that you say, okay, this has 90% of the same characteristics of a FAS, but we're gonna just with the 10% difference between the categories of sort of maneuverability, durability, and convergence, and these like take any ship and break it down to sort of 10 criteria, 10 metrics. And then just say, okay, we're going to make this 1% better here, this 1% worse there, whatever. So that you're not making shit that's completely unbalanced, but you're making just shit that's got like a slightly different use case.
Yeah.
So I could defend any shit, but I get the nature of the question that you're asking, what you're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, there are some ships that for me, the way I say it is they give me no joy to fly. Now,
that's a good way of putting it.
The absolute best ship in the game, unquestionably, is the Anaconda. If you look at on paper the amount of hull armor they give it compared to the actual weight of it, the amount of speed and jump range it's allowed to get considering its size, the amount of weapon convergence, and the way that it handles distribution and the way that it handles all of these different things. The Anaconda on paper is the broken Mary Sue God tier, this is way too good ship. And it gives me absolutely no joy to fly.
Yeah,
I have one and I don't use it.
Yeah, I have an Anaconda that I used for a pre-Christmas trip to Beagle Point, which I will never do that again. But I took it out there because I was like, okay, well I can make this thing into a Jumpaconda, and then I'll head out there, I'll see Beagle Point, I'll cruise around a little bit, and then I'll head back. And then I got out there and I was like, no, I never want to fly this thing again. Like I do not enjoy flying this at all. And it's actually still in Colonia right now. Everything else I have is in the bubble, like at Forbes Terminal, except for my Anaconda, which is at Jacques Station. And I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to go back and get it. Every once in a while I'll look at the ship transfer and I'm like, I should just sell it. I should just sell it and just get rid of it. Like, there's no reason for me to have it anymore because I'm not going to fly it. But there's always a part of me that's like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it there just in case.
Yeah, I mean, any ship that, I've only gone out to Beagle Point once, but any ship that I took out to Beagle Point, even if just for me, that's a museum piece. I would take it, I would name it something, leave it, but I also have over 100 ships. I definitely have a problem. But I would name it something, and in the name, I would have an indication that it was a ship that had made it to Beagle Point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I once spent a little over a month of my life dating a model, and that's kind of, to me, flying an Anaconda is like dating a model. Everyone else is looking at the stats and thinking you got it made, and you are inside of this situation thinking this is just not fun.
Yeah, it's that whole I can't remember who it's attributed to, but it's like the whole grab hold of the object. Does this spark joy? No, put it in the box. That's how I feel with for me it's the Fer-de-Lance. I don't like the FDL at all. I don't think it's fun to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly because I have this weird thing about symmetry. And so the fact that you're so far on the right in the cockpit, it drives me bananas. Everyone's always like, oh no, it's great once you get flying it, you hardly ever notice it. And it's like, no, I notice it all the time. Like I literally can't not notice it.
So then you would not like the ship that is honestly the ship that has my heart, the ship that is my favorite ship in the game. You would not like. Favorite ship is the why am I blanking now on the name of it? I'm an idiot.
The Python?
Python.
So actually, oddly enough, for RP reasons, I'm currently in a Python. And yeah, the symmetry bit of that does kind of bother me, but it's not as bad. In the Python. And honestly, the Python, in my opinion, is just funner to fly. So I definitely have a lot of love for the Python. I mean, for me, I love flying the killback just because, well, one, I think it has the best engine noise. That's one reason. And two, it reminds me of like if Elite were to be like real life tomorrow, right? The killback seems like a ship that I could actually afford, that I would actually fly. And would be like, hell yeah, that's my ship. And then, like be pointing at it in the parking lot and being like, see that baby? That's mine out there. And people be like, it's a killback. Who cares? And it's like, do you have a spaceship? Didn't think so. And then I hop in my spaceship and I fly away. But, like no one, if Elite was real life, there'd be like 3 people in the world with an Anaconda. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. So the way I look at it is like, no, the killback is like a reasonable, realistic type of like goal. If I was if I was in real life trying to get my hands on a spaceship.
100%. So I'm linking for you right now in the call chat the killback song that Tokoso did.
Oh, nice.
It's legit. You'll dig it. Yeah. So the god tier ships to me in the game are the Anaconda, the Python, and the Cobra. And they are the sort of god tier ships for their weight class, if that makes sense. So, your Anaconda is the god tier. It is the ship that again, gives me no joy to fly, so I don't like it. I don't fly it. But on paper, it is unfathomably strong for its size class. So as the large ship, it is not the best PvE combat ship. That's clearly the cutter. It is not the best combat ship vet, trade ship cutter. It is not the best, miner cutter. It is not the best. Well, it actually is right now the best exploration ship. But of the 3 types, the 3 game loops, it is the first best exploration ship. It is it has the largest jump range in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It is the second best combat ship. It is the second best trade ship. So like if you look at, there's 3 classes of game loops in the game right now for flight. There's, combat elite, trade elite, and exploration elite. If you're the best at one and the second best by not a wide margin at the other 2, well, you're clearly the best altogether.
Yeah.
Same with the Python. The Python is either the best or in the top 2 or 3 of medium ships of all the different categories. It by far has the largest cargo capacity of a medium ship. So any BGS players, a lot of times if you ask people what they like, and if they say a Python and they've been playing for a long time, that's a player that plays BGS. Non-BGS pilots don't give the Python love or respect. BGS pilots all love the Python. And similar for the cutter. Not cutter. Cobra. The Cobra is, of the little ships, it's the one that's sort of the best all-arounder.
Yeah. I had a Cobra for a long time until, oddly enough, I got to the killback. And then, because when I initially came to Elite, I was just there for the space trucking. Combat was cool, but I was like, no, I just want a space truck, because it was at the beginning of the pandemic and like everything was locked down, and I just needed something to just take my mind off of stuff. And I was like, I just want to just brainlessly space truck and make money and not worry about anything right now. So I started, starting a Sidewinder like everybody else. And then my my cousins who I was playing with were like, you should probably focus on getting a Cobra because the Cobra can do combat and is a decent trader. I was like, okay, cool. So I got the Cobra, flew that around for a while, did quite a bit of combat in it, and was like, okay, this thing's pretty nice. And then I got the kill back, and then I just started hardcore space trucking. And then the funny thing is, I went straight from the kill back to the Type 9. I didn't do a Type 6. I didn't do a Type 7. I didn't do anything else. I was like, all right, Type 9, let's go. And then I just loaded up the space brick and just started making money. And then one day I had Trade Elite and I was like, oh, well, I guess I should probably get other spaceships then. And then
So
just
you
got to win from
probably
there.
started after 2018.
Yeah, I started, it was right after, it was like March of 2020.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
See, it used to be different for the old timers who played back in the day. It was a deal of, having your Sidewinder and then being able to move up to a Cobra was a huge deal.
Yeah.
From the Cobra, you invariably moved up to the Asp, and that was a huge deal. It was so different. For people that have come to the game later, you can start and inside of 20 hours from starting fresh from scratch, you can have yourself Trade Elite, access to Shinrarta, and buy an Anaconda, which is like the facile sort of I win condition of the game. But like there's just so much more to it.
Yeah, it's definitely the speedrunners version of Elite, which like there are new people in Sidewinder Syndicate, that have come in just recently, just in the last couple months. And I remember like this one person in there was talking about, they're like, yeah, so I just got my hands on a Python. And I was like, damn, how long did it take me to get a Python? And I was like,
yeah,
I was like trying to think in my head. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then like not even a week later, he was like, yeah, so I just unlocked all my federal rank. I just got my Corvette. I'm like, what? Like I played this game for a year before I freaking got a Corvette. I was like, all right, that's cool. I mean, like not knocking him. It was just really different. And what you're talking about as far as like the much slower progression, like the much slower game loop progression is something that my cousins experienced because they were both actual like initial backers of the game. And so when they started playing again, when I started playing, they were like, dude, they have auto dock now? And I was like, I guess, I don't know. It just came with my ship. And they were like, I had to manually dock everywhere. And I was like, all right, Grandpa. I mean, sorry I have an auto dock and you don't, but yeah.
Thank you, my name. To school.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
the snow, barefoot, uphill, both ways.
Yeah. But it was funny though, because then I got the what's it called? I had Super Cruise Assist. And so like we would be going to a station or whatever, and they would, without fail, just blast past it every time, do the loop of shame and come back around. And I was just, just slow rolling my way in there on Super Cruise Assist and be like, well, I mean, you could always buy it. It's not a big deal. And they're like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it like a real commander. It's like, all right.
I mean, yeah, if you want to do it like a real commander, that's cool. Go FA off and let's see what you got.
Oh man, I have been practicing FA off in the Python, and it is like with fixed weapons, and it is. I have a whole new respect for the people that try and do it like more, I guess, air quotes here, more hardcore. Because I'm trying to, like, I got my Corvette, and then kind of like what you were saying with the Anaconda, where it's not that it doesn't bring me joy to fly. I actually do really like flying it, and it is probably my favorite ship, but it feels like easy mode in combat. You know what I mean? It's a juggernaut. And so I was like, I need to find my ship. I need to find the ship that actually speaks to me. And so I made a joke a while back because I'm having a ship life crisis where I'm like, okay, I need to figure out what I want to fly. And I almost defaulted to the Crate Mark II. And then I was like, you know what? No, I haven't really messed with the Python. I'm gonna try out the Python. And so far, I really like it. I think it is actually like the ship that speaks to me.
It's a beautiful ship.
It is.
If you really want to start combat, and like I cannot enough recommend just the sheer joy that is flying a vulture in combat. It is just so much fun. It's not a big ship, so yes, it is not People could be like, "Oh, you could do so much more efficient. You could do so much better with a Corvette." Yeah, duh. But you cannot have more fun. Anyone who tells me that they have more fun flying another ship in combat than a vulture, that confuses me, because it's just sex on a stick, man. It's just fucking amazing. What do you use control scheme wise? HOTAS, HOSAS, controller, keyboard?
So I started out on a gamepad. Like I just had an Xbox 360 gamepad I was playing on because I don't know why I didn't think to try mouse and keyboard initially, but I was like, well, I have this gamepad, may as well use it. And so I was using that and having a good time with it. And then after a while, like I realized that I was playing Elite a lot more than anything else, and I was like, I'm gonna get a HOTAS. So then I started shopping around, and of course, I tried to get a HOTAS right when Microsoft Flight Simulator came out. So so all the prices were jacked up. So I was sitting there, and I was like, I'm just gonna bite the bullet on this, and I found an X-52.
Great setup
at a semi decent price. I'm not gonna. I would rather not disclose how much I paid for it, but then I got it in. I hooked it up, and then I just never looked back. I could not imagine playing Elite without a HOTAS now.
I have so many hours in on X-52 Pro. That was my previous setup, and I cannot highly enough recommend it. For those of you out there who are like, hey man, I think I'm going to get something. I think I might get this Thrustmaster T1600M or T16000M, whatever, because it's like $40 cheaper than the X-52 Pro. Spend the extra $40, $60. I'm sure now with COVID and all of the price gouging, it's jacked up. It's $100 more or whatever, but like, spend it. The X-52 Pro is the absolute best HOTAS, in my opinion, of the budget class.
Yeah.
There's three classes of HOTAS. There's the unlimited class, the budget class, and the cheapo class. And budget doesn't mean cheapo to me. Budget just means we're not going to be stupid here and spend stupid money. If you want to spend stupid money, go Verbals. But if you want to spend, like, okay, I'm spending a middle amount of money and I expect to get a quality product, the X-52 Pro is so choice.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, when I was shopping around, I was looking at like reviews, because one of the things about the because I'm not gonna lie, I initially was looking at a Thrustmaster Warthog, and yeah, I was like, screw it, man, if we're gonna go big, right? And I was sitting there and I was reading the reviews, and a lot of the reviews people kept talking about like, oh, I've had to switch out buttons for this, or like this lever stopped working for me, this, that, and the other, and I was like, I don't want to deal with that. And then I saw the reviews for the X-52, and admittedly, the reviews for the X-52 Pro were better than the base X-52. But when I was looking at, because at that time the price difference was like $120 or something like that, and I was like, well, the X-52 still has really good reviews. I'm just gonna get that. And then, like I said, I did, and I will never go back. Like, I've seen reviews for the Verpal sticks, and I've heard great things about them, but I went and looked that up online, looked up the price, and I was like, holy crap. Like,
they're very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were telling me you recently got into Verpals. Did you get them set up?
Yes, they are all set up. So what I have is a Monster Tech mounting system to my chair, and I have on my left and right hand twin Verpal Constellation Alpha left and right sticks mounted on Verpal VPC Warbird bases. To the left of my left hand, mounted on my chair, I have a Razer button pad and a sort of a mounted place where I place an Xbox game pad. On my right hand, I've got a gaming mouse, a Logitech gaming mouse, and mounted up above that, I have a Logitech Stream Deck. Not Logitech, sorry. What's the name of that?
Elgato.
Elgato Stream Deck. It was a gift from Frontier. They gave me this
nice
box thing. And
it sounds like you got a full cockpit over there.
I have a decent little setup, and then so I fly with the Verpals. If I have to get into extended menus or other things, like when I'm flying around, if it's like, oh crap, I got to check where's the nearest interstellar factors, I click on the Elgato Stream Deck. I'll click outside sources, which pulls up a subfolder, and then Inara, which pulls up a subfolder, and then nearest interstellar factor. It's like, okay, that's where the lawyers are. I got to pay off my fine. I fly with the Verpals. I drive the SRV, and I intend to do FPS combat with the Xbox game controller. It just feels better to me.
So
and if I need it, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I need to pick your brain because I prefer to drive the SRV with the gamepad as well. I am terrible driving an SRV with my HOTAS. It is god awful, but
that's what
I can't get the game to recognize both controllers at once. I have to like disconnect one and then reconnect the other. So I need to pick your brain on how you have that set up. Like, do you just have it do you just have the keys binded to one and then the other?
So if you go into the in-game keybinds in Elite Dangerous, you'll see that you have column 1 and column 2. So you just set up your HOTAS controls under column 1, or if it's something that you want to have as a dual control, like night vision, you set it up as keyboard, and then you say like N is night vision on your keyboard, and then you go and you map your HOTAS and you say that N on the HOTAS is this button on the Verpal or whatever. And then you use column 2 as your Xbox gamepad. So it'll be like Y, X, A, B, or this, and this. So you can have 2 controllers set up at the same time on Elite. Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, I appreciate that. I will look into that. But I think though, Kai, I have taken up quite a bit of your time, and I greatly appreciate you sitting down with me and just sharing stories, sharing your experience, talking about your guys' creative works, but also just talking Elite and just bullshitting here. This has been fun. I appreciate this. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Right on, for sure, man. And you got to come on to Elite Week, and we'll talk to you a little bit about, dude, the story that you've got going on, the bit where you jumped in and your Kovas is like, we don't know who that ship is, and you're like, I know who that ship is. That ship is me. I remember making that maneuver 4 years ago today. This is the day that blah blah blah. I was like, holy shit, this is a gripping story. So we gotta next time we gotta talk about that on my show.
I'm all for it. You let me know when and where, and I will be there. But real quick though, before we go, plug anything that you got as far as like Elite Week or anything else you got going on. Go ahead and let the people know where they can find you.
Sure. I do a little show. It's called Elite Week. We do we record live every Friday night at 8 p.m. UTC on both, 8 p.m. ET, Eastern Time, on both YouTube under youtube.com/Elite Week, ELITEWEEK, all one word. It is also dual streamed out on twitch.tv/Elite Week, all one word. The podcast is anchor.fm/Elite Week, all one word. So you could come check that out, or check out Elite Week 3306 on Twitter. Come check out the show. It's a cool little funky show. We basically just get drunk and talk Elite and talk shit and talk random funny things that we find, and every once in a while we break a news story that then gets wider attention. Last night's show, we broke a story that, despite the fact that Elite community managers haven't said anything at all this week about Odyssey Alpha on their official streams, we broke and played 2 recordings of audio clips of community manager Bruce Garrido actually saying stuff about the alpha that was not public knowledge, and played the video and said, here, check it out. So just as a, exclusive for your listeners, you can let them know, and they can check out on the Elite Week. They can actually check out the clips for themselves.
there's a lot bubbling up as far as the alpha is concerned. I bought into the alpha access, so I'm looking forward to checking that out and to streaming it and to doing a lot of wacky shit. I'm hoping that we can break it in interesting ways so that they know what to fix and what works and what doesn't. But also, it's going to sound really, I don't know, immature, but Kai, I'm getting a crew together, trying to get some folks on for a potential space heist, and I've already got Boss Lady B signed on. So if you find yourself available during the alpha, I'd love to have a steady trigger finger when it comes to a potential space heist if you're down.
Oh yeah, brother, I can be your Overwatch. I think interestingly, is it going to be like a super secret squirrel ninja top level heist like we got shown in the game?
Yeah, so I always picture like it like in those scenarios, it's always one person being like, "Look, man, I'm trying to open this door," and then the other guy is like, "Okay, well, I'm trying to keep these freaking guards off of us." And in that instance, I can 100% see like I'm gonna be the guy with the freaking torch going through and like cutting the panel off and everything while there's explosions going on, and the other people in my crew are like, "Can you please open this door?" And it's like, "Look, man, this plasma cutter only goes so fast. you gotta give me some time."
I'm gonna take it super serial. I'm gonna like run up to the door, aim like put my back to the door, covering your six, and with my right hand, come up and fist to the helmet, just pop, tap two, breach her up, let's go. Door open. And we're gonna do dude, that was.
Oh man,
that was so painful. See that
was.
They were doing. It was like because they were allowed to be there. So it was like if you imagine like let's say you're gonna rob a bank, right? You just walk up to the door, all nice and comfortable, nice and normal. Get through the door, pull your mask down, like, "Well, it's a robbery, whatever." But what they did instead was like from like a block away, they're like dodging from car to car and like doing like okay, I'm gonna do a somersault here, and it's like. Meanwhile, I just picture like the guard, the security guard, standing inside the bank, looking out at them, like going,
"Yeah, it's like
these assholes doing."
Yeah, exactly. So they're like,
"Here's what we need. We need. What was the name of the guy on the American Office? The boss guy.
Michael
Scott. Yeah, we need Michael Scott, Dwight Schrute, and fucking what the guy that always said big tuna. The what was that other Ed Harris, Ed something, that weirdo. It's like we need these three guys to like come and rob a bank. And exactly like you said, like I just see them like skipping and like jumping with their feet up against the wall in the middle of the street for no reason, going parkour. It was so dumb.
It was, but
right,
it
was fun chatting with you.
Oh, it was great chatting with you. But yes, so now that the people know where to find you, we're gonna be friggin' holding up some banks in Odyssey. It's gonna be great, and yeah, that's gonna do it. So thanks a lot, Kai, and I will talk to you later.
Count me in. I'm in for the heist. Let's do it. Talk to you later.